Okay, we're back. Anyway, so at the bezel. Welcome back. Opalix are us. So anyway, got the bezel, got it out of the pickle. We also got the pendant piece out of the pickle. So we're gonna set that off to the side for right now. We're gonna get this one on the backer. I was looking at the stone, so let's just go ahead and clean this here up. We're gonna probably just take it down a little bit so it's not so tall. Last time we started out, we're a little bit tall for the ring, so I'm gonna go ahead and take it down now while we're working on it. So it's gonna require a little more sanding, that's all. So sand it, sand it, sand it. Sandy, 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 sandy. And check again on our height here. Yeah, I think we're about there. So, other than that, just gonna keep on sanding. Sandy, 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 sandy. Okay, good. I think that'll be good here in just a second. Actually, I like that stuff. I'm gonna go and put that away. Let me respond to this message real quick. It's all good. So anyhow, I'm gonna turn the ringer off on this other phone so I don't get disturbed. But okay, so we have that set. So we're gonna be doing the same thing, but since this is the ring, we don't need to worry about it as much. So I got that bottom piece sanded. I'm probably gonna go with. Let me check what size this is. We're gonna just turn this into a ring. This is size 8.5. I'm gonna be a little bit. I have some shanks already made up, so we're just gonna find a shank that's already made and use it for this ring that we're gonna be making here. So it's an 8.25. I think I have a size 8. I think a size 8 will be a decent size. I made these all 8.5. I wonder why I did that. Oh, that's a size 10. That might be a little big. So we're just gonna go with the size 8. I'll just set that off to the side over here somewhere. So we can, just remember we're gonna use that for this particular ring that we're doing, so not a big deal. So let me go back and find this piece. And since we're doing a ring, we don't need a bunch of backers, so here we go. Same thing we were doing earlier with the pendant. We can go like this. And try to use the least amount I can here. Like that. Mark it out. That will work for this. Put the marker up. And same thing, gonna whip out the old saw. Saw, baby. And we're gonna be cutting this kind of at an angle. So same thing, using my finger there. Get it started. And since we're doing the curve, we just as we go up and down, we just twist. And oops, twist. And once again, we're at the end, and so it doesn't fly off the bench. Just take that, twist it, set that to the side. We're not gonna have to hallmark this right away because our ring will be the one that's hallmarked on the inside of the band. You don't need to, hallmark your bezel. Cup setting, so that's good. And then just because, in case anybody's curious, this particular one for the ring is going to be a little bit heavier gauge. And yeah, we're 0.7 on the thickness there, which is a little bit, should be about 0.7 is 21 gauge, just approximately, just so everybody knows. So once again, I'm going to slap that down, and we're going to go ahead and throw some of that on there. Take this, make sure have it upside down. Side that's sanded, same thing, dip, shut that, stick that on there. Okay, same thing, heat it up again. And once again, we did hard solder for the bezel. So we'll get this to where it turns white and it's where it needs to be. And go into medium. And since this stone here, since this one here is just a little bit smaller, we won't need as much solder, so that'll be a good thing. So I'm gonna go 3 areas on this one. And just if you're curious, I'm doing 2 chips per little ball of solder. So if you're a person who likes to throw chips on there, heat comes from underneath here. We're only doing 3, but like I said, if you're doing chips, it would be 6 chips, not 3 chips. Come on, little solder, get in there. Here we go. And are we set? Yep, we're set good there. So once again, like I said, I like to come from underneath, get it nice and hot. Once I see it start to bubble, then I will switch my torch up top. And we'll do the same thing. We'll double check and make sure that everything's sealed on the bottom, which, that way we have a nice, good, solid solder. We're almost there. And, yeah, we're there. Okay. Done, done, done. And same thing, we're going around the outside because the solder always goes toward the heat. So coming on the outside is going to pull that solder. And you always got to be careful too, because if you're not careful, you're going to unsolder the area where you solder the bezel. So that's done. That's ready for pickle. And remember, we're on part 2, so I'll probably end up with 3 parts for this thing. They're just fitting the pendant into. So a lot of people, I like to use clippers. So look at my little scrap here for cleaning this up, and I just use these little shears. So, and that's me. I just come around and cut it as close as I can. Oops, to the bezel. I think I personally just find it quicker than trying to do it with a file or a saw or anything like that. So that's just me. It's just a preference. A lot of people like to use a saw to get nice clean cuts that way, which is fine. I personally don't I think this saves me some time. I mean, I could be incorrect, but I think it does. So I guess at the end of the day, it only matters what you think when you're building your piece. So, do what you think is going to save you the most time. A lot of it is about time. You don't want to spend, a whole day working on a piece that's only going to, be worth $100 or something, because that's it's not very cost effective for you. But when you're learning too, it's going to take more time to do stuff. Then once you get time, and I have my pre-polished, more polished stuff, and so like here, because of I nicked the bezel, looks like. So I'm going to sit here and take my file and I clean up all this stuff. And I save all these filings too, so. And what I'm going to do is I solder it down to where it's all the way down to the bezel there. And you can tell if you have a good solder joint, because you won't have any gaps in that. And it'll look like, even though you did put a bottom plate on, when you're done with the filing and polishing and sanding and all that good stuff, you shouldn't even notice that there is a joint there if you did a really good job on your pre-soldering with your cleanup and everything else, and making sure it's all cleaned up and good. Remember, we're going to continue to remove silver, so on the particular filing part, you're just going to kind of get it right to where the line is either, that seam is either gone completely or really close. Don't want to go too deep at this point. I have in the past done where you clean it up too much with a file, and then when you go to sand and stuff, depending on how thick the bezel wire is you particularly use for this setting, I have, when I go into sand and polish, actually sanded through the silver before. and have to pull the gemstone and start back over, which anybody who's made jewelry, it's very frustrating when you have to completely rebuild a setting because you messed up on it late in the game. But you know, it happens to all of us. And like me, see, I got my little bucket there, and I got a nice little pile of silver, and just kind of, because I'm going to save that for later. So, and I know some of you guys are probably wondering, going, hey, you know, you attach your jump ring to the back plate. I do that so then that way this whole back is nice and solid with the jump ring. I think it gives it more stability, makes the piece, it's going to last longer in the long run doing it this way, because you don't have that weak spot where you have a jump ring just soldered to your pendant or a bail just soldered to your pendant. So it would actually require it to, you know, break off completely. So that's the reason I do that. I think it makes a more sturdy piece of jewelry. It's going to last your end user, if it's you or, you know, someone, a loved one, or, you know, if you have an Etsy shop like I do, or some other individuals do. When they do it this way, it's going to last the end consumer, or the buyer who's enjoying the piece of jewelry. It's going to last them for years to come. You know, because there's not going to be that weak spot. And we all know, you know, you wear jewelry. You know, you want to show it to your friends, your family, and they take it out, you know, on dinner nights and stuff like that. And things get caught on things, you know, not on purpose, you know, because we all like our piece of the jewelry that we buy ourselves or others. But sometimes things happen, so. In building these pieces, I try to make them as strong as I can, you know, so that I know that the end user is going to have a nice piece of jewelry that's going to last them a long, long time. So, filing around this though does take some time, because you got that joint, and then you're going around a bail. So if you're close there, it's close. There we go, we're almost done with this one. So, since I'm not going to edit these videos, probably, in all honesty, I mean, I might show you the last part of the polishing process, or part of it. I'm probably not going to do the whole thing, because it does take me a little while to polish these pieces. So it's not going to take me 40 minutes to an hour to get into all the cracks and crevices. So I'm probably not going to share all of those aspects. If you guys want to, just leave comments and stuff and say that you want to see that stuff. So I switched over to the triangle file to be able to get into this groove here where the jump ring meets the pendant part itself, just to make it look nice and clean. So this is going to be less work later on. So try to make sure that the filing is done good. Oops, there we go. Sometimes if you're not careful, you're going to ding a piece, which happens. Let's clean this up a little bit better with this one now. So I just take it and spin it around. Now to go to the middle, because I'm doing a back plate, so drill bit, and we're going to get our shaft drive here, and make sure you're always using your burr life. It's always good to use that stuff. So, and once again, we're just going to drill a hole in the middle. So there's the hole, which is fine. And depending on the size that you use on your on this, it's going to determine. You got a hole in there. You can break out the saw. I have this nice little cutting tip for my shaft drive that I like to use for getting rid of the last of that. Same thing with any of this. Always burr life, burr life, burr life. A lot of these smaller tips like this one and stuff, if you're not careful, and you don't use burr life, or if you go too fast, you can sit there and burn them up and get rid of the cutting, how they can cut. It's just, it sucks. Trust me, these stupid tips are not very key. So it does. It was very depressing when you burn them up. That's pretty close. So the tip still looks good. So put that away for a later date. And then I break out the round file, which I do have one somewhere up here. So same thing. And we got a file inside of this. So get this cleaned up. People, you know, technically your files only usually cut good in one direction. Some are doubled, so they cut in either direction. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it cuts in one direction if you are going back and forth with it. Some people worry about it and think it matters, but at the end of the day, in all honesty, it really doesn't matter that much. The biggest thing is just keeping your files clean. Because they will fill with silver dust and stuff. So anyway, when I get to that point, what saves me a lot is these sanding barrels. These sanding barrels are just amazing. And it makes it so nice. I'm done filing. So now that I'm done filing, I'm going to go and clean up these edges here. And it's just the same as if you were to break out on your sanding sticks or your buff sticks. Which, you know, hold on, let me set this down. Which I do. I mean, I have my buff sticks and stuff that we can do this stuff with, but why do it by hand if you've got yourself a shaft drive and you can get the, I mean, we sell these at the shop. They're like, I can't remember. I think they're $8 a piece or something like that. Plus some shipping. Different grits we got from 220 all the way to 3000. For doing your first one like I am here, I mean, I'll look at your final sanding just prior to polishing. So I mean, this just makes my life so much quicker and easier. It's, you know, this here, we're just blending this all in. This is just the first sanding right now, so. And this, we're just cleaning up these little edges, and we'll just see this bezel and everything is matching, which is nice. So, we'll clean this up, we're gonna clean this jump ring out. And with these, you can get in here, just go sideways with it, and clean up that edge there. And flip it over, do the same thing to the other side. Simple, easy. Clean across the top here, just flip it back the other way. Just so you just use the tip. So it gets into all the small little grooves, which is, it's very nice. It's a good time saver, it really is. I mean, look at that, we're basically done, and it took us just a few seconds. I like to go ahead and knock off the edge here. Don't have any sharp edges on anything, so we kind of just do that little 45. We'll catch that later with our sanding stick and stuff like that to finish off anything, but this is just kind of give it a little, so it doesn't have a sharp edge. You don't want a sharp edge on the jewelry pieces for someone to catch their hand on. So, and the same thing with these sanding too. They work great. You get the back. You can run it on sandpaper, or you can just use these sanding barrels and just boom, look at that. Real quick, real easy. Cleans up the back really nice. So looks like everything really good here. And honestly, we're about to the point where I nicked it with the shears, so I should have cleaned that up a little bit. That is the one thing with shears. I mean, you can do it with a saw too. You're gonna nick yourself sometimes if you're not careful. Just trying to make sure we're getting all the file marks out of the piece. It makes a big difference when you go to do your final polish. You can see any of the small little scratch marks that you didn't clean up at this stage when you do your final polish. You don't get it good now. So it is important to definitely do a good sanding on all phases. The same thing, I'll hit the inside also. Make sure where the gem is going to sit is good. So, so we got that. So we're going to pop this loose, pop this down. For this pendant now, we're ready for, we need a bail for it. So we're going to pop this out. If you guys want to know how to make these, I can show you. Just let me know in the comments or something. We'll go through a thing of making some bails. So I'm trying to think. That one looks a little small. It's not bad though. I personally like the bigger ones. It allows the end user to be able to use a bigger chain is the biggest thing. So we're gonna go with that one. And these are always stamped with 925 also. So same thing, we're going to go ahead and clean the edges up here because we're going to put it through our jump ring. And then we're gonna solder it. We've done medium on the back plate. We've done hard on the bezel cup. And for this one, we're gonna use easy solder. You can use, I do use solder paste sometimes, which I have over here. So I do have solder paste, and I usually do this for repairs or fixing of other people's stuff. When they send me a piece that needs to be fixed, I'll use, that is really easy. Really easy solder. It melts at a really, really low temperature. When you don't know how the piece was soldered prior to you getting it, which when you're doing repairs for people, that's when it's nice to use the very easy solder, because the last thing you want to do is be fixing somebody's piece of jewelry, have it melt, you know, because you didn't know, and you know, destroy their piece of jewelry. It sucks. So for me, I take the pendant and I take the end, and I bend to 90 on the end here. And the reason I do that is because I want, when it hangs in the jump ring, I don't want to have a sharp point there. I want to have a nice, like a nice cup. So I want to be able to grab this. So we're going to set that in there. And I check wherever the stamp is. The stamp's there. So let's put the stamp on the back. So when they're wearing the piece, they're not going to see it. So we've made our little notch. We've bent our piece in. So we need to just get rid of this little nub that's sticking out here. So we're going to go ahead and file that away until we get it flat with this piece here. And then we're going to have to form it a little bit. Make sure it matches nice and looks good. So working on that right now. Okay, so that looks good. Okay, so 925 in the back. So now we have that. Let's stick our tweezers here. Now what we're gonna do is just gotta get this to touch. So I don't know. I don't use the second hand that much. You know, I have it over here. I just don't use it that much. I also have my other tweezers. I don't use it that much. I've had pieces where I've used that and overheated them. You know, I hate to say it, it's probably just inexperience. You know, yep, I know, yeah. Inexperienced, it happens. And then it melts your piece or collapses it or something because those tongs are, so anyway, we're going with easy solder. So same thing, we're gonna warm this up really quick. And we're gonna get our solder on here, solder on there. So here's where it's nice. Oh, I'm destroying the place. So we're gonna heat the bottom. We don't wanna heat our old work. So we're heating, I heat down here at the bottom to get it warm. Trying to kind of keep it away from everything else. I'm gonna use the tweezers to hold this together. And just when I see it start to melt up here. Which, is it gonna melt? It won't melt. Oh, looks like I messed up on that piece of solder. Kind of had that solder. It wasn't on the joint right. It kind of touched the, there it goes. Okay. You gotta remember, your solder can also oxidize, the same as your regular silver can. So what happens is when you go to solder, if you've heated your solder chips up too much prior to getting it placed, and it oxidizes, that oxidized solder will not melt properly either and will not adhere right. So that's why a lot of people, myself included, that's why you want to heat up the silver around where you're going to solder instead of putting the heat right on the solder, if that makes sense. So our cup is out for our ring. So we're going to go ahead and cut that really quick and get that ready to go. So I might be able to get this set this time. I'm going to have to So same thing, we're going to go ahead and break out the nippies and get this nipped. Get that nipped, so that's nipped. And back to filing again. So as you, I mean, it's time consuming. It takes time to do all this stuff. This isn't very clean, so there's going to be a lot of, in all honesty, it's going to take me a while to go and do that. So we're going to go ahead and call this part 2. While you guys are away, I am going to go ahead and get this filed. I'm going to take the one that's in the pickle. We're going to get it out of the pickle. Probably get it first polish real quick, get it ready, and then get ready to set the stone in the pendant and get this cleaned up and ready to solder this onto our ring. So anyway, I will see you guys again for the next part. Interested in anything that we're making, or if you ever need a custom piece, you can also message us, opalholics.com. Thanks everybody. Until next video.